Peace and love, everyone. If this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. I mostly talk about dreadlocks, nutrition, and I do some story times and different things. But as you can see from the title, that this is going to be a story time. It's about my life. When I want to say 23. I'm almost positive I was 23. I suffered a heroin overdose. I wasn't like led to do it by anyone or anything. I was at a party. A girlfriend of mine had it. I had never done it before. But she had some, and for some reason, I wasn't really in a drinking mood or whatever. And even though all the bad things I had heard about it or whatever, I was like, oh, well, this is different. It's not, I'm not going to, it's not like back in the day when everybody was like using needles and stuff like that. It was just like, oh, all you have to do was just, and she wasn't even doing it. She was just somebody I knew that sold it big time. And so she just gave me like a nice amount. And honestly, in my mind, one of my thoughts was, okay, I can get rid of this. I can sell this. And even though I was making good money doing hair and everything, it was just like, I don't even know where the thought came from, but I was like, well, let me just try it. And I tried it. I did like literally like one up one nostril, one up the other nostril. Didn't feel anything. Some minutes went past. I did it again, just twice, back to back. And next thing I know, I was feeling like airy and, you know, happy, and everything was good. And, left out the room. It was a big party going on. I left out the room and, socializing and everything. And I just felt real, just like light, kind of, floaty light. Wasn't a bad feeling. It was just just a light feeling. Fast forward, um, left that party, went there with a gentleman, left that party, do not remember. I remember walking out the door, but I do not remember anything else outside of that. I remember leaving. I do not remember anything that happened behind that. I had one glass of champagne before we left, though. One glass. I guess the person helped me in the car, and there was another party to go to. It just so happened it was a very, very close friend of mine that threw parties all the time. Very well known here in the U.S. and very well known in Nigeria as well. And we were on our, I remember him saying, before we left that we were going to go to that party. Now, mind you, again, my first time doing it, didn't really feel anything, and all I remember was waking up in a hospital. Waking up in a hospital with a tube down my throat, tube in my nose, a catheter, a tube detoxing me, I guess, in my arm, and my mother standing over me. And I was like, where am I? And how did all this happen? And what's going on? I'm freaking out. And then next thing I know, I was being wheeled into a room, and the nurse was saying, wow, you're a very strong person. That must have been I'm not going to say what she said, one heck of a party that you were at. And I was like, I didn't understand what she was saying. I didn't know what she meant. I didn't know what was wrong, and I was in the hospital, and this was how I learned about pneumonia. I always thought that pneumonia was like you had to catch a cold or whatever to get pneumonia. I didn't know that it was just fluid that was on your lungs. It was a virus, or having fluid that was retained on your lungs. I thought, if you caught a cold or whatever, that's how it developed into pneumonia, or, you didn't wear proper clothing, because that's what, our parents used to always say or whatever. So I was told that the amount of heroin that I had on me, you know, of the value that it was, which was a lot of money. Again, I was thinking to myself, well, where is it? Where's my purse? Everything else, but the fact that, I'm in the hospital and I'm sitting up here like not really knowing what happened. What really went down was, by the time we made it to, no, before we even made it to the next party, a police officer had pulled the gentleman over that was driving me around and had said, you didn't do anything wrong. However, we had looked in the car and the person that's next to you, what's wrong with them? And he was like, nothing. She just said, because all he saw was I had a glass of champagne. And they were like, you need to take that person home or take that person to a hospital or something. Something doesn't look right with her. Her face is very, very pale. And yes, I'm light by nature, naturally very fair in complexion. But, obviously I was looking sickly and the police officer noticed it. But still, this person, took me to this party. Now, why they thought it was okay for me to still go inside the party, because I obviously could not walk. They had to call people from upstairs at the party, because there was a lot of people at this party, from what I was told. And this person that throws the parties was definitely a good friend of mine, always throws a lot of parties and everything. So, I'm sure it was plenty of people there. I still don't know who. I just know he was there, the person who threw the party. But I was told that it took 5 guys, 5 men. Now, at this time, I was 23, small, and shouldn't have took more than one person, even if I was intoxicated, to help me upstairs. But dead weight is dead weight, right? It's heavier. So it took, they said, 5 people to get me upstairs. And then once they got me upstairs, um, it was just thought that I was maybe inebriated to the other people that, was at the party. And they put me in a room, my friend's bedroom, and laid me down on the bed or whatever, and that was it. And they went back to playing cards and partying and everything. Well, my friend, for some reason, kept checking on me, and I had on these slides. I remember I had on Pierre Cardin slides, and for some reason, he looked at my fingers, and my fingers were turning blue. So he took the slides off my feet, took my socks off, and saw that my feet were turning blue. My toes had started turning blue. So something similar had happened not too long before, maybe a few weeks before, in which some friends of his, I'm going to say some friends, um, some girls had overdosed, and I believe they died. I'm almost 100% positive that they had died. 2 girls. And for that reason, everybody knew about the situation from before. And when he went back and was like, yo, this is what's going down, this is what I believe is happening, everybody left, including my friend. They left out of the house. And for some reason, my friend came back. He came back. He's no longer here. He's no longer living. He passed away last year. My friend came back. He was scared. I guess everybody was scared that, they would be implemented, or they didn't want to be around. Like, if something was happening to me, nobody called the ambulance or anything before they left or anything. Everybody just pushed out. He came back and fortunately called the ambulance. And I'm backtracking. And I was literally like less than 5 minutes away from a hospital, Weiss Memorial Hospital. in Chicago. And, basically they told him afterwards that if he had not had called when he did, that, I would have been out of here, period, point blank. It's crazy to me, just thinking that one minute you're at a party, not even had never touched heroin before, had never even thought about it, and just out of the blue, it's just like, oh, I'm fearless. You know what I'm saying? I whatever. Let me just try this out. But you know, my main thing was I knew that I was gonna get enough, and I was gonna make some money off of it. I was gonna sell it. So let me just try it out and see what it's like. I ain't know nothing about cutting it, if it, how pure it was, and come to find out it was very, very pure. It hadn't had any hit on it. It hadn't been touched. Um, it was it was as almost as pure as it can be, And yeah, I was in the hospital for a week, not because of the drug overdose, but because of, I guess, um, I had regurgitated and swallowed it, not to sound gross or anything. And that's how I wound up getting the virus and having pneumonia. Um, and that's when I learned that pneumonia was definitely, like a virus or whatever, because it wasn't cold out or anything like that. It was, you know, it was what it was. It wasn't super hot, but it wasn't cold out or anything. So yeah, I'm in the hospital. My mom never really talked about it, never really asked me any questions about it. I don't think that anybody else in my family ever knew about it. And probably even to this day, a lot of people don't know about it, but yeah, if it wasn't for my friend, whom I call my brother, for sure, 100%, I would not be here. I've heard about people having overdosed on heroin, and it rendered them blind. It rendered them, they went in a coma. They um, lost body movement, all types of stuff. They died point blank. You know, I was chosen to stay here. I was chosen. I was truly blessed. At 23, you're pretty much fearless. You think that you're invincible. You could do anything. And I guess the reason why I'm talking about it is because I know that a lot of people do partying and stuff around this time of the year, and maybe tempted to like go out and drink too much, or try something new, or pop a pill, or it's all types of stuff out. I guess they call them like what, ecstasy, and all types of other stuff. I'm sure that's out. But just be mindful that life is very precious. you know the most that came out of it, was that I was rendered with pneumonia, and developed bronchial asthma from it, which comes back to the fact that years later, I got pneumonia twice, back to back, in the past couple years. And still, the whole bronchial asthma thing, I have to have a pump at all the time, with me, just in case. Most of the times the bronchial asthma will kick in if I catch a cold or whatever. The thing that I learned from it was, I'm gonna be honest, I was sitting in the hospital, and because I was young and still feeling, like invincible, it was just like, oh, I remembered I was supposed to pay off my car that week. And I had to make a certain amount of money doing hair to pay off my car that week. And that's all I kept saying was, I got to get out of the hospital. I have to get out of the hospital. And they were like, you don't even know what you survived. You don't even know what you've been through, you know. But I wasn't thinking about that. My mind was just, just totally, just like, I'm not going to say I was unfazed, because I never did it again. That's for sure. But I wasn't. I don't think I was frightened out of my wits the way that I should have been. Now thinking back at my age of 49, I would never do anything like that. Never. It was crazy then. It was crazy. It's definitely something that I feel is crazy now. So before you pick up any drugs, any pills, any whatever, cocaine or alcohol, overindulge or any of that, think twice, because it could be gone that fast. If my friend would have decided to leave, with everybody else and not come back, I wouldn't be here. I point blank wouldn't be here. I was already turning blue, which means I was losing oxygen at a pretty rapid pace, you know. And thank God, that there was a hospital down the street, and I didn't have any brain damage. I didn't suffer any repercussions like I've heard of other people having. I didn't develop any type of habit or anything. It was a thing that I did, and I'll never do again. But I survived it. I survived it, and I'm very grateful to my friend that saved my life. I wish he was still here. Um, I don't want to say his name again because, you know, he never brought it back up to me, but I thanked him over and over and over again for saving my life. I don't know why the person that I was with didn't see, that something was truly wrong and thought that it was okay to not listen to the police and not take me to, a hospital or whatever, or, especially, after the fact of it taking 5 people to get me upstairs to another party, and then basically didn't, you know, the one thing he did do was, um, even though he didn't know exactly where I lived, he knew the area in which I lived, and him and another friend, they found my house by ringing every doorbell like in the area, and found my mom, my mother's house. Um, I wasn't living with her, but they found my mother's house. And because of course I mostly lived by myself, so there was nobody at my house to go to or find or whatever. So they the person, his cousin, lived in the same neighborhood that my mom did, and he remembered that, and they found my mother just to be able to notify somebody that, of what happened and that I was in the hospital. Otherwise, she wouldn't have known until I came to or whatever, but I was able to wake up and see my mom there. So that's just my little story. Hopefully it'll help somebody. I'm not saying it. I'm not telling the story or whatever for sympathy. I'm not telling the story for views. I'm not telling the story for anything other than the fact that it was on my heart to tell it, because I don't talk about it. I haven't told many people about it. It's nothing I'm ashamed of. It's just something that happened, and I just never really talked about it. So that's it. Hopefully, you all would think, whoever's watching this video, be mindful of the things that you do, and know that no matter at what age, 15, 16, 17, 20, 50, whatever, it can all be over just like that. Just like that. So while you out celebrating during this holiday season or whatever, just be mindful. Be mindful before you get behind that wheel and drink. Be mindful before you go to that next party after you know that you've already been drinking. Find somebody, find an Uber, give somebody your keys, do something, or just don't pick up anything. You don't have to. I mean, a celebration doesn't mean that you have to do um, different things. You don't have to celebrate by doing drugs or taking an alcohol or whatever. Which, of course, alcohol is one of the main drugs out here besides nicotine. Peace and love, you all.